Hi, this is Trusted Niels in the Call to Learn conference, and we're here with ToriAnn Perkey. We're very excited to hear from her. She's going to be teaching us about homeschooling 101. Yeah, the basic stuff. So we're going to be exciting to hear from her. But before that, we want to get to know you a little bit better.
Okay.
So can you tell us about where you grew up and where you were born and
Sure.
maybe something about your childhood?
So I actually grew up in Provo and Orem, Utah.
Wow.
And born and raised here. And I am the oldest of 5 children, but we have 3 families in my family. So my parents, so we have me and my brother, and then there's a 7-year gap, and there's 2 sisters, and then there's an 11-year gap.
Wow.
So my youngest sister is 21 years younger than I am.
Wow.
So it's been really interesting because that's allowed me to watch my sister as a younger generation go through the public school system in contrast with my kids going through the homeschool situation,
yeah.
but both very intimately. And it's just, in a lot of ways, cemented how much I love homeschooling and everything.
Neat.
So, yeah.
Well, that was just a testimony right there.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. So your parents are from here too? Or?
My mom is from upstate New York.
Oh, okay.
And my dad grew up in northern Utah.
Okay.
And they met at BYU, and he works at BYU, Brigham Young University. And I actually met my husband there at Brigham Young University. After we got married, we spent 9 years in Columbus, Ohio, which was super awesome. I love getting to know more people and moving out beyond this area. And then we came back here, and we've been here ever since. We were there about 9 years, and then we came back. We've been here about 9 or 10 years. So we're back in Utah now.
All right. So tell us, how did you meet your husband?
So we met in Latin class. I'm a classics major, which means that I have a completely useless degree unless you want to know a Latin word root.
Okay.
He was a history major. I was a history minor. He was a classics minor. So we were in Latin class, and he's 6 years older than I am, so I thought he was super smart because he knew all the Latin, and he had just taken more classes than I did.
Yeah.
So he had been there for a while, but because he's older, he was kind of hanging out, waiting for me to actually get to college. We got married I was just turned 20 when we got married, and we will celebrate our 20th anniversary next summer.
Okay. So let me get this right. You met in Latin class in high school?
No, in college.
Oh, I was like, that can't be
right. No, at BYU.
Okay.
We met in BYU Latin class.
So you were in your freshman year?
We met in our freshman year and then got married during my sophomore year.
Okay. All right. Great.
Yeah.
And yours almost in 20 years.
20 years. 20 years, 4 kids, a dog, and several other pets.
All right. Well, tell us about your kids. 4?
So I have 4 kids, and we're just about to do the age change, so it's easier just to describe what they're about to be. So I have a 16, a 14, a 12, and a 10. I have a girl, boy, and that's the last time I was in control of anything, I like to say. And they are all really, really different. They love different things. They're all passionate about different things. And I didn't know it when we started homeschooling, but I'm so grateful for the fact that with homeschooling, I'm able to really cater to all those unique, different interests, both the strengths and the weaknesses, right?
Yeah.
So I have all of these kids they're a package. And I mean, I think every kid's a package. And so we have things that are really hard for for one kid and really easy for another. And I just cannot imagine not having the flexibility to really highlight strengths and support weaknesses. And I think homeschooling does that. So I've got one that just loves rabbits, and she raises rabbits. She has a business where she sells those. I've got a dancer, which ironically is a boy, but he's my dancer and my musician and my artist. I have an artist, and then I have a builder. I have an engineer who just is a constructor and an inventor. And I look at some families, they get all baseball players, or they get all gymnasts, or all pianists. Yeah, I didn't get that.
Yep, you got a little bit of everything.
I got a little bit of everything, so it's super fun.
That's great. So tell us your homeschool journey. What got you made you decide?
So, way back, Columbus, Ohio, had a friend who was reading about homeschooling. My oldest is 3.5. Prior to this, my answer, are you ever going to homeschool? It was absolutely not. Because if I homeschool, then my kids are home all day and I won't get a break. And I was like, that's why you send your kids to school, so you can have a break during the day.
My friends always called it free babysitting. Exactly. You got to do free babysitting.
And I just laugh when I think about that now, because I am the antithesis of everything I thought I would be. Because I wasn't going to get married, I wasn't going to have kids, I was going to, be a CEO of some major corporation in New York City, and here I am, a stay-at-home homeschooling mom who also runs a successful business. But it's been a really circuitous journey. So 3.5, my oldest, I like to say she just came out super duper different, just like really different. And not even like marching to a different drum, but over in the corner playing the bagpipes. She's just really different.
Wow.
And so my best friend was reading about homeschooling, so I started to read books about homeschooling, and it just lit a fire in me about the possibility. I'd always loved the idea of individuality and catering to talents and gifts. That had always been something that had really appealed to me, and it was something we talked about a lot as friends.
Yeah.
And so this idea that an education could support that, I was really, really excited, and I felt impressed. I'm praying about it, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm looking at the timing, and I'm thinking, this is crazy timing.
Yeah.
And but I felt like it was the right thing to do. So we get started, and we took it really easy. During those first couple of years, I had more kids. We moved a couple times, I mean, it was crazy. So it was really low key.
Yeah.
And then we had moved back here. She was starting second grade. I thought, okay, it's time to get serious. We got to do real school, right? No more of this mamsy-pamsy, whatever. We got to buckle down. And so I made all of these lists and charts, and I had all of this reward system set up. And it lasted like 6 weeks before it all fell apart. And I thought, okay, that is not the way to homeschool, because we went from kind of having fun to not having any fun to just crying and whining. And so I went back to the drawing board and I said, okay, what does this really look like if I want to make this successful? And from that point to now, it has just been a phenomenally exciting journey as I really started to apply those principles of individualized education. All the things I believed in, but I was just putting school at home, and I had to go through that. Yeah. So that's kind of our journey. What I didn't know is that my second kid and my third kid and my fourth kid, we're going to need homeschooling for completely different reasons. So my oldest needed it because she really was different. Didn't read till she was 8.5. And it would have been really easy for her to be labeled as dumb, put in resource, highly distracted, probably ADD. But she didn't have any of those labels, and we could just wait it out till she was ready to learn. Yeah. So definitely she needed it. But then between behavioral issues and food issues and needing to really focus on certain things, all of my kids there's just been this moment where I thought, that's why we're homeschooling you. And we're not even done with the journey yet, right?
Yeah.
So,
still going.
So it's turned out to be a blessing that I wouldn't have even anticipated at the beginning, over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you have any regrets at all in your decision? Or things that you skipped or wanted to do if you were to go back?
Any regrets? I think I would relax more earlier. So I started trying to teach my oldest daughter to read when she was 4, right? Because I learned when I was 3, so surely she can learn, right? And year after year after year, I made it fun because we wouldn't have done it at all. Otherwise, she would have refused. But there was so much time and energy that I put into trying to teach something. She wasn't ready to learn yet. And just like with everything else with parenting, later on down the road, what I figured out is that if you wait till the kid's ready, it is so fast. Learning to read is no different than potty training. You know what I mean? You can spend 4 years doing it, or you can spend 3 weeks doing it. And I have found, and so my regret is, if anything, that we spent more time working on things I thought she needed, rather than waiting and instead focusing more on the things that she potentially really would have flourished in. And we did that, but I think we could have done it even to a greater extent.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if you could just nail it down to one thing, what is the one thing that you love about homeschooling the most?
So when people ask me why I homeschool, I finally got to the point where I said, you got to write an elevator speech, because otherwise you ramble and then they glaze over.
It's so true.
And so what I say is this: I homeschool because I want to tailor the education to my child and not my child to the education. So for me, that is what it captures the essence of why I homeschool, is that you can individualize and you can really help develop the child to become the person God wants them to be, which is going to be unique and different, and what their mission is on earth is going to be unique and different. And if I believe that, and I believe that's true for every kid, then why would I do an education that is just sort of a one-size-fits-all type of experience?
Yeah, great. So if I were to say maybe your second daughter. So give me an experience where that has happened, where you have actually seen her And
so
tailored
she
to her.
is really dyslexic, but we didn't know it.
Okay.
And very different personality. My oldest daughter was willing to go along with games, and my younger daughter, who is now, she's about to turn 12, she is the kind that will just clamp down and just shut down if you try to get her to do stuff. So reading was not an option.
Okay.
But, you know, I'm on kid 3, and I'm thinking, surely we can do something. And the impressions I had were, do nothing with reading. And I'm like, she's 6, 7, and nothing. And during that, and it was actually not just do nothing with reading, it was do no school with her. I mean, she would still join us for the time we would spend together, but there were no individual assignments, no individual things I was asking her to do. And the impression was just wait, just wait, just wait. And during that time, she drew, and she was drawing constantly, constantly. And 6 months later, there was a really intense period where I felt like I wasn't supposed to ask her to do anything. So she's not writing, she's not reading, she's not doing math, all those things that, you know, as a mom, you're kind of like, oh,
yeah, absolutely.
So, right? But during that 6 months, she drew like crazy. And at the end of that 6 months, she says to me, Mom, I am an artist. I am an artist. And you'd say, what are you good at? She goes, I am so good at being creative. And then, very quickly after that, the impression was, now you can start to teach her.
Wow.
So there was this sense of she needed to inform and discover who she was, and then we could build skills on top of that. But if we had tried to put those skills in place before that, it would have been like trying to build a building on water. There would have been no foundation. And so I think that's a really great example where, because I had the freedom and the flexibility to do that, she now reads all the time. She writes all the time. She's dyslexic, so we're still working on spelling. But all of those other things came in on a foundation of, I am an artist. And she is an artist, right? And she knows it. And there's nothing, and everything else that she struggles with is informed by, but I am this, so I can do that.
Gotcha. Wow, that's beautiful. That's a great story, too. Yeah. All right, so one last question about the homeschooling is the common question. How does your husband handle it, and what did he think when you started?
So we started when they were little, right? Anybody can do preschool. And then it was, well, we'll just take it 1 year at a time. And kindergarten, and, you know, I know my colors, I know my shapes. I think he trusted me, but he was always nervous and scared. I mean, there was always this, what about this, and what about this, and what about this? And I think particularly when they couldn't read, that seems to be a big marker of whether or not they're doing okay or not, especially for dads. And what I found is there was a point where he started to shift, and I think there were a couple things that happened. One, he had several conversations over a fairly short period of time with other homeschooled dads. And what I found is you can put a dad in front of a mom who homeschools, even if it's not me, right? Another mom forever, and there's no connect. But and my husband was one who wasn't interested in reading the literature. He wasn't following blogs. He wasn't going to go to a conference.
Right.
He was, and I think that's probably true for a good percentage of homeschool dads. Not all of them, but a lot. So he wasn't engaging in the stuff that was helping me really believe this was going to work. But it was when he started talking to other homeschool dads. I don't even know what they said, but they were able to calm the fears in a way that no one else was able to. So that made a huge difference. There was this moment that really shifted things after those conversations with the dads. And the one part where we'd had a little bit of conflict, and I don't want to say conflict because it wasn't ugly, but it was just a moment where we just weren't seeing eye to eye, was the fact that he was wondering why things weren't happening at home the way he thought they would, because I was so busy homeschooling. And there was kind of a disconnect. So things like dishes in the sink, or maybe there's more mess than he wanted. And, you know, when you're sharing that responsibility, he goes to work, I stay home, and I am taking care of the home, then there's this expectation that I'll be taking care of the home. And I had to help him understand that the time commitment that I was putting in the homeschooling required that he support it in ancillary ways beyond just saying, oh, I trust that you'll educate our children well. And as we had that conversation, when we could really boil down what was going on to the essence of it and have that, there was a dramatic shift. So not only did he trust me as a homeschooling mom, but he also trusted the fact that the time was being spent well. And he's now an advocate of homeschooling. And I think it's helpful as your kids get older because you start to see the results of everything you take on faith when you start. It's all on faith that it's going to be okay. And then 5 years, 6 years, 10 years down the road, when you have a teenager and they're not like other teenagers and they have the sense that they own their education and that they're actively looking to the future saying, what am I going to do with my life to make the world a better place? I think that, you know, dads are often about what the results that they can see. And he started to see those results, and we haven't had a conversation about homeschooling. And like I said, he's an advocate. It's not even what are you doing, but it's like, let me go out and tell people about this because it's so amazing, and your kids can be, you can have a journey that looks like ours.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's awesome. Well, thank you, ToriAnn.
To subscribe to our YouTube channel, click here. To choose from our gifts and request updates on our most popular topics, visit calledtolearn.com. For more videos like this one, click this playlist. For Table Talk discussions, choose this playlist.